My phone vibrated twice and Andrew's message popped up right on time. Honey, there's a department dinner tonight. I might be late. Love you. Mia looked at the familiar love you on the screen and my mouth unconsciously lifted up. It's been 7 years and Andrew is still so attentive, reporting his itinerary every day and never letting me worry. It feels so good to be on his mind all the time that I put down my phone and continue to organize the documents in my hands. I have been working on this cooperation case for 3 months, examining every detail, and today it has finally been finalized. My name will definitely be on the promotion list next week. At the thought of this, my heart feels as sweet as if it had been filled with honey. A promotion and a pay raise, and then marry Andrew. We've been together for 7 years and it's time to enter the next stage of our lives. Mia, congratulations. You've landed such a big order. A promotion and a pay raise are just around the corner. Mary, my colleague, came over with a smile, holding a bag of sweets in her hand. Let's celebrate early and don't forget to invite us to the wedding. Yes, Mia, we're waiting for good news from you and Andrew. Other colleagues chimed in and the office was filled with a joyful atmosphere. I smiled and responded, but I was a little worried inside. Andrew, will he propose to me? We've been together for so long. I think he wants to settle down too. After work I went to my usual restaurant and reserved a private room by the window. This restaurant was where we had our first date and I wanted to celebrate my promotion here and look forward to Andrew's surprise. While waiting for the food to be served, I went to the bathroom. As I passed by the next private room, a familiar voice came from the crack of the half-open door. Andrew, your wife is really inconsiderate, isn't she? She's annoying, nagging you about getting married every day. The voice. It was Andrew's brother Edwin. My heart skipped a beat and I subconsciously stopped in my tracks. You bet. She's always so plain and uninteresting, like a dowdy old woman. I'd say Rose is better. She's pretty and knows how to dress up and she's considerate. Andrew's voice had a hint of impatience and disgust. Rose, don't you agree? Andrew turned to the girl next to him, his tone so gentle it could make water come out. My head went buzz and went blank. Rose? My best friend. Oh, Andrew, you're just teasing me, Rose said in a flirty tone, her voice so sweet it gave me goosebumps. I'm not teasing you. I'm telling the truth. I feel most at ease with you, unlike some people. Andrew didn't finish his sentence, but the meaning was clear. Andrew, don't say that about Mia. She's pretty good, Rose said, but her tone made it clear she was smug. What's so good about her? If she's so good, she wouldn't be pushing me to get married every day. Tell me, how can I, a big man with a career just starting out, have the heart to get married? Andrew's voice was full of complaints. I couldn't listen to him, so I turned around and left. My hands and feet were cold and I was shaking so much that I could hardly stand. Back in the private room, I forced myself to calm down. I couldn't panic. I had to figure out what was going on. It wasn't long before Andrew arrived. As usual, he smiled, gave me a hug and kissed me on the forehead. Honey, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. We had a department dinner today to celebrate me winning a big project. Andrew's voice was full of joy. I looked at him, but my heart felt cold. Big project? Yes, his big project was to work with my best friend to trample me underfoot. Congratulations. I managed to squeeze out a smile, but my voice was a little hoarse. Honey, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Andrew seemed to sense something was wrong with me. It's nothing, I'm just a little tired. I lowered my head to hide the tears in my eyes. The whole evening I was distracted. I looked at Andrew, at his familiar face, but it felt incredibly strange. Was he still the same Andrew who reported to me every day? Or was he the same Andrew who said he loved me? After dinner, Andrew walked me home. Outside it was raining a little. When I got home I couldn't hold back anymore. I ran into the bedroom and cried on the bed. This home, which used to be warm and cozy, felt like a cold prison suffocating me. 7 years of affection, was it really so fragile? I cried until I was exhausted. In days I felt like I had returned to my childhood. I was bullied by a few older boys that year, and Andrew was the one who stood up for me and protected me. He was like a knight guarding his princess. Mia, don't be afraid, I'm here for you. That was the first time we met and the beginning of our love. Later we went to school together, got off school together, and shared each other's secrets. We were each other's best friends and closest partners. On the day of the college entrance exam, Andrew confessed to me at the school gate. Mia, I like you. Be my girlfriend. I looked at him, tears glistening in my eyes, and nodded firmly. We'll always be together. That was our promise and our hope for the future. After college we were separated. Andrew's social circle expanded and he made more and more friends. Our communication became more limited and we mostly just talked every day. Honey, I went to class today. Honey, I hung out with friends today. Good night, honey, I love you. I thought this was another way to show our love. I thought that as long as we still loved each other, distance would not be a problem. But I was wrong. I looked at our chat history. Everything felt so familiar and so sweet. But now these sweet words felt like sharp knives stabbing my heart. I remembered that last month was our 7th anniversary. I had carefully prepared a gift and wanted to surprise Andrew. That day I left work early, bought Andrew's favorite cake and specially decorated the room. But when I returned home I saw Andrew and Rose sitting on the sofa behaving intimately. I froze and the cake I was holding almost fell to the ground. Mia, you're home. Andrew stood up looking a little panicked. We were discussing work matters, Rose explained, her smile slightly provocative. I felt angry but I smiled and said, it's fine, you guys continue. That night I threw the cake in the trash and hid in my room crying all night. I thought it was just a misunderstanding. I thought Andrew still loved me. But I was wrong. I took out the ring I had prepared to give to Andrew and my heart ached so much it was suffocating. I had specially ordered these rings to represent our eternal love, but now they had become a joke. Suddenly a barking noise interrupted my thoughts. I looked down and saw that it was Fugu, our golden retriever that we had had for 5 years. He was barking furiously at me and even bit my trouser leg. I froze. Fugu had always been very obedient and had never bitten me. Fuji, what's wrong? I crouched down to try to calm him. But Fuji barked at me even more fiercely as if I were his enemy. I suddenly understood that Fuji was feeling sorry for me. He was telling me that I shouldn't be sad about this man anymore, that I shouldn't shed any more tears over this relationship. Yes, I shouldn't be sad about him anymore. After 7 years it was time to move on. I dried my tears, stood up and went to the window. The rain was still falling but my heart gradually calmed down. Tomorrow would be a new day. I would start a new life without Andrew, without betrayal, just myself. I took a deep breath, looked out at the rainy night and said softly, goodbye Andrew. Goodbye my youth. I hugged Fugue tightly, buried my head in his fur and let out a loud cry. All the pain, anger and sadness I had felt over the past few days came rushing out at that moment. I cried for a long time until I could no longer cry out. Then I slowly raised my head and looked at Fugue's wet eyes. Suddenly I felt that there was no difference between myself and him. We were both abandoned and unloved. I smiled bitterly, stood up and went over to the bag of dog food. I grabbed a handful and put it in Fugue's bowl. Fugue, eat. This is the last meal I will feed you, I said softly, but there was a hint of determination in my voice. Fugue seemed to sense something and instead of jumping on me as usual he stood quietly and looked at me. I looked around the house one last time. It used to be full of laughter and joy but now it felt empty. I went into the bedroom and started packing up the things that Andrew and I had bought together. Each item held a memory of us. On the bedside table there was a photo of us smiling happily. I picked up the photo and looked at Andrew's handsome face. My heart ached. I turned the photo over and on the back was written, "Take each other's hands and grow old together." Now it seems so ironic that I tore the photo into pieces and threw it in the trash. In the closet there were a couple of outfits of Andrew and I hanging all over the place. I took them down one by one, folded them up and put them in the suitcase. On the dressing table there were all kinds of cosmetics and skincare products. Andrew had given them to me saying that he wanted me to always look my best. I swept them all into the trash. I packed up everything that belonged to me one by one and put it in the suitcase. This process was long and painful, as if I were cutting away my past little by little. After packing I looked around. The home I had carefully decorated had now become empty and cold. I dragged my suitcase to the door. I looked back at the place where I had lived for 7 years. Goodbye my love. Goodbye my youth. Goodbye Andrew. I took a deep breath, opened the door and walked out. The door closed with a thud, closing the door on my 7 years of youth. I stood in the empty hallway feeling the cool night breeze on my cheeks. I felt a sense of relief that I had never felt before. I was finally free. I dragged my suitcase and walked down the stairs one step at a time. With each step I felt more and more alive. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I hailed a taxi. Driver to the airport, I said. The taxi slowly started up and took me far into the unknown. I looked out the window at the street scene that was rapidly receding, and I felt a sense of bewilderment. I didn't know where I was going or what I was supposed to do. My 7 years of relationships had ended suddenly and my life seemed to have lost its direction. Suddenly I heard a ringtone on my phone. I took out my phone and it was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment, but then I answered it. Hello, is this Ms. Mia? A middle-aged man's voice came from the other end of the line. Hello, who is this? Hello, Ms. Mia, this is Tom, an attorney at IM Group in New York City. We suspect that you are the long-lost daughter of the chairman of IM Group, and we hope that you can come to New York to take a paternity test. IM Group? Chairman? Long-lost daughter. What is all this about? I thought I had heard it wrong or that I had encountered a fraudster. Did you dial the wrong number? I don't know any IM Group or any chairman. Ms. Mia, I know this is very sudden and you may find it hard to accept. However, we have sufficient evidence to show that you are the daughter of the chairman. Is your mother's name Amanda? Amanda. I froze. But didn't my mother die a long time ago? How do you know my mother's name? I asked, my voice shaking. Ms. Mia, it's not convenient to discuss the details over the phone. You should come to New York City and we can talk in person. Lawyer Lee's voice was sincere. I hesitated. Go or not go? If this is true, then am I? I didn't dare to think any further. After taking a deep breath, I decided, okay, I'll go. I had to find out what was true. I told the lawyer my flight number and hung up. I looked out the window. My heart felt mixed emotions. If this was true, my life would change a lot. I would have a new identity and a new family. I suddenly felt that my life wasn't so bad after all. At least I still had hope. The plane landed at New York City Airport. I dragged my suitcase out of the airport. At a glance, I saw someone holding a sign with my name on it. I walked over and the man respectfully said to me, Hello, Miss Mia, I'm Tom. I've been sent to pick you up. Please follow me. I followed him and got into a limousine. The car sped all the way to the city. Looking out the window at the unfamiliar city, my heart was filled with anxiety and anticipation. The car stopped in front of a luxurious villa. I got out of the car and looked at the imposing villa in front of me, feeling a surge of nervousness. Is this my home? I took a deep breath and followed the man into the villa. In the living room, a middle-aged couple was sitting. They stood up as soon as they saw me. You are Mia. The middle-aged woman looked at me and asked excitedly. I am Mia. I nodded. The middle-aged woman suddenly rushed over and embraced me. My child, you have finally returned, she said, crying, her voice trembling. I froze, feeling her warm embrace, and I couldn't hold back my tears. Is this really my mother? Mia, I'm your father, the middle-aged man said, coming over to me and gently patting my shoulder. I looked at him, his eyes full of love and guilt. Dad. I called out, choking. Good girl, it's good to have you back. Gu Mingtian also reddened his eyes. The three of us, the family, embraced tightly. At that moment I felt as if I owned the whole world. For dinner the family prepared a fancy feast. The table was full of all kinds of dishes, all of which I had never seen before. Mia, try it, these are all your favorite foods. I looked at the dishes piled high on my plate and my heart felt warm. This was the first time I felt the warmth of a family, and it felt so good. Suddenly a small snow-white kitten jumped onto my lap. It rubbed its head against my hand and meowed softly. This is Angel, our little treasure, my mother said with a smile. I stroked the soft fur of the lucky cat and it blinked contentedly. At that moment I felt as if I were in a warm dream. After dinner my mother showed me my room. It was big and cozy, decorated like a princess's castle. Mia, this is what Mom and Dad have prepared for you. Do you like it? My mother asked. Yes, I love it. I nodded, tears streaming down my face again. This was the room I had always wanted, and finally I had it. My child, this will be your home from now on and you will never have to suffer again, I said, snuggling into my mother's arms and feeling her warm embrace. My heart finally settled down. I lay on the soft bed, smelling the faint fragrance in the room. My heart was full of a sense of security and happiness. Suddenly I thought of Andrew. I took out my phone and looked through his WhatsApp. He hadn't sent me any messages or called me. I sneered and blocked him. From that day on he had no more part in my life. I turned off my phone, closed my eyes and soon fell asleep. The next morning I was awakened by a fragrance. I opened my eyes and saw a kind-looking aunt standing by the bed. "Miss, you're awake? Breakfast is ready." "Thank you," I said politely. I finished washing up and went downstairs to eat breakfast. The table was already full of a variety of breakfast, Chinese and Western, everything you could want. "Mia, come and eat breakfast," my mother called out to me. I sat down and my father and mother were already sitting there waiting for me. "Mia, did you sleep well last night?" my father asked with concern. "I slept very well, thank you, Dad," I said with a smile. Our family happily ate breakfast and chatted. Felt so good. I felt as if I had been reborn and all the past had vanished. After breakfast I took out my phone and prepared to call in sick to work. Suddenly I received a bunch of WhatsApp messages. I clicked to open them and they were all from Andrew and his friends. "Mia, what do you mean? Why break up? Mia, are you being too much? Andrew treats you so well and you're still not satisfied. Mia, don't regret it." I felt disgusted as I read the messages. I didn't reply and I blocked them all. At that moment Andrew's phone rang. I hung up directly and blocked him. I didn't want to have anything to do with this person anymore. I was about to put my phone down when I saw a friend update. It was Rose. She posted a photo of herself wearing a diamond ring snuggled in Andrew's arms and looking happy. The caption said, "Thank you, dear, we're finally getting married." I looked at the photo and felt sick to my stomach. It turned out that they had hooked up a long time ago. I sneered and was about to quit the moments when suddenly Rose sent me a private message. I clicked on it and saw a pregnancy test report. Rose's name was written on the report and the result was pregnant. Rose also added a text. "Mia, I'm sorry, I'm pregnant with Andrew's child. We truly love each other. I hope you can bless us." I looked at this message and felt very silly. I replied with 4 words. "Have a baby soon." Then I blocked Rose too. From that day on, these 2 people were gone from my life. I took a deep breath to calm myself down. I told myself not to be sad about these people and things that weren't important. My life has just begun. I have more important things to do and I want to be happy. "Dad, Mom, I want to intern at the company," I said after breakfast, gathering the courage to share my thoughts. I knew they wanted me to take over the family business as soon as possible, but I had my own plans. "Intern? Which department would you like to go to?" My father put down the newspaper and looked at me with some surprise. "I want to start from the bottom," I said. "I want to go to the bridal shop." My parents looked at each other and I could see surprise in their eyes. They probably thought it was inconceivable for me, a young lady, to work as a clerk in a wedding dress shop. "Mia, working in a bridal shop is really hard." "You?" Mother paused, looking concerned. "Mom, I know. But I'm really interested in fashion design and I want to learn from the basics. Besides, the bridal shop is kind of our family business, isn't it?" I tried to convince them, my eyes full of longing. My father thought for a moment before slowly saying, "If you really want to, then go for it. But don't overwork yourself and let us know if there's anything wrong." "Thank you, Dad." "Thank you, Mom." I was so excited that I almost jumped up, not expecting them to agree so easily. "Silly child, what are you thanking them for? As long as you're happy, that's all that matters," my mother said, petting my head affectionately. And so I began my career as a part-time worker in my family's wedding dress shop. The wedding dress shop was called Dream, and it was the largest wedding dress shop in City A, as well as a brand under the GU Group. The store was decorated in a very dreamy style and the windows were filled with exquisite and gorgeous wedding dresses dazzling the eye. I changed into the uniform of a shop assistant, stood in front of the mirror and looked at my new self filled with anticipation. Although I am only a small shop assistant, I believe that this is where my dream will take off. In the beginning, I was responsible for receiving customers, helping them choose wedding dresses and trying them on. I also organized the shelves. These tasks may seem simple, but I learned a lot. I began to understand different styles of wedding dresses, different materials, and how to recommend suitable wedding dresses for customers based on their figure and personality. Every day I saw the happy smiles on the faces of the brides to be, and my mood became exceptionally good. I started taking out paper and a pen after work to draw some designs. They were still very basic, but I could see my dreams and passion in them. One day I was organizing the warehouse when I heard a familiar voice. What is the design concept of this wedding dress? I turned around and saw a young man standing in the doorway. He was wearing casual clothes and gold-rimmed glasses, looking refined and elegant, but also carrying an unmistakable aura. Hello, this wedding dress is our store's jewel named Galaxy. It is inspired by. I smoothly introduced myself, explaining my understanding of this wedding dress. After listening, the man nodded and pointed to a sketch I had just drawn and asked, "Did you draw this?" Yes, just doodling. I scratched my head, a little embarrassed. Not a bad idea, but the details could be improved. The man pointed out the problems with my design. Then he took out a business card from his pocket and handed it to me. "I'm the manager of this store. If you're interested in clothing design, you can take a look at these books." I took the business card and the stack of books he handed me. The titles were Fundamentals of Clothing Design, Clothing Materials, and Clothing Structure Design. "Thank you, manager," I said excitedly, feeling that I was one step closer to my dream. Ford smiled and turned to leave, but I started reading the books as if they were treasures. And the following days I worked even harder studying the books on clothing design whenever I had a spare moment. Ford also often took the time to give me guidance and explain some professional knowledge, which benefited me greatly. However, the quiet days did not last long. One day a special pair of customers came to the store, Andrew and Rose. The moment I saw them, I almost dropped the wedding dress in my hands. I suppressed the nausea in my heart and tried my best to remain calm. "Oh, isn't this Mia? What has the young lady fallen so low as to work here as a salesperson?" Rose walked over to me with Andrew's arm around her, her tone full of mockery. "Mia, why did you break up with me? Is it because you found a new sugar daddy?" Andrew's eyes were full of anger and resentment. He pointed to Ford not far away and said, "Is that the little white face?" I couldn't believe it. How could this man be so shameless? "Andrew, are you crazy? We broke up because you cheated on me. You and Rose have been together for a long time. Do you think I don't know?" I couldn't hold back anymore and shouted angrily, You're talking nonsense." Andrew's face turned red. "You know very well whether I'm talking nonsense or not. Please leave, you're not welcome here." I pointed at the door and ordered them to leave. "Mia, don't go too far." Rose saw Andrew get the better of me and immediately jumped out to defend him. "You're the ones who've gone too far, aren't you? Running here and acting like a bully. Do you really think I'm someone to be bullied?" I said coldly. "You." Rose was so angry that she couldn't speak, and suddenly she reached out and pushed me. I didn't stand firm and fell backwards. "Be careful." Ford was quick-eyed and quick-handed, and he caught me in one go. "Are you okay?" he asked with concern. "I'm fine." I shook my head and looked at him gratefully. "What are you doing?" Ford glared at Andrew and Rose. We didn't mean to," Andrew said sheepishly. "Get out," Ford said unceremoniously. "You?" Andrew tried to say something else but was stopped by Rose. "Let's go." Rose's face was a little pale and she covered her stomach, looking in pain. "What's wrong with you?" Andrew asked nervously. "Oh, my stomach hurts." Rose's voice was full of tears. "The baby. My baby." Andrew's face changed as soon as he heard this, and he immediately picked Rose up and rushed out of the bridal shop. This was how a farce ended. I watched their messy backs as they left and I felt nothing but sadness. "I'm sorry for causing you trouble, Manager Jing," I apologized to Ford, bowing my head. "It's not your fault," Ford patted my shoulder in consolation, "as long as you're fine." "I'm fine, thank you," I thanked him again. "You have a talent for design, keep up the good work," Ford said encouragingly. "Yes." I nodded vigorously, feeling full of strength. That evening I returned home with the book Ford gave me. I locked myself in my room and began to study fashion design seriously. I knew that the road was still long, but I would definitely persevere for my dream and for myself. Andrew didn't show up again for the next few days, and I thought the matter had passed. However, I never expected him to come knocking on my door again. "Mia, can we talk?" Andrew asked, sounding a little pleading as he asked me to meet him at a cafe. I hesitated for a moment, but then I agreed. I thought that some things should be brought to a close. When I saw him at the cafe, he looked tired and his beard was unkempt. He no longer had the confidence he used to have. I'm sorry. It was my fault. I shouldn't have betrayed you, Andrew began apologizing as soon as he saw me. Rose and I have broken up. What happened between us was just a misunderstanding. I looked at him and felt silly. Andrew, do you think there's a chance for us? We've broken up, that's a fact, I said coldly. But didn't you say before that you minded Rose? Now that we've broken up, why won't you forgive me? Andrew asked, undaunted. I was almost made to laugh by him. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. We'll start over. We'll get married and I'll give you a home. Andrew suddenly pulled out a ring box from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a sparkling diamond ring. I looked at the diamond ring and felt nothing but irony. Andrew, I already have a home. I don't need your home or your charity, I said coldly. Home? What home do you have? The IM Group. You're just their daughter who returned at DO. You really think they'll treat you like family? You're just a pawn in their game. Andrew suddenly became agitated. He pointed at me and shouted, you're just money-minded. You're just a gold-digging woman. I was so angry that I trembled. I really wanted to slap him to wake him up. At that moment a familiar voice said, have you said enough? Ford walked over and stood next to me, looking at Andrew coldly. What are you doing here? Andrew looked a little flustered when he saw Ford. I've come to take her home, Ford said indifferently, then took my hand and turned to leave. You. Andrew pointed at us and was too angry to speak. Ford ignored him and took me away from the cafe. On the way back, Ford kept holding my hand tightly. His hand was warm and it made me feel at ease. Thank you, I said softly. It's okay, Ford said with a smile revealing two shallow dimples. We walked to the car and Ford suddenly stopped in his tracks. What's wrong? I asked, puzzled. Ford didn't say anything, just looked at me silently. His eyes were so gentle that they made my heart beat faster. Well, I'll go back first. I lowered my head, afraid to look into his eyes. Wait. Ford suddenly reached out and gently wiped my cheek. I froze, looked up and saw a shallow wound on his face. Your face. It's nothing, I just accidentally bumped it, Ford said lightly. You're still saying it's nothing, it's bleeding, I said, taking out a tissue and gently wiping the wound for him. Hiss. Ford let out a gasp. Does it hurt? I asked nervously. No, Ford looked at me with tender eyes. At that moment my heart skipped a beat. When we got home, my parents saw Ford's injury and immediately asked concerned questions. It's nothing, Dad. I just bumped into it, Ford said, smiling. How could you be so careless? Let me put some medicine on it, my mother said, taking Ford into the living room. I looked at them and a warm feeling welled up in my heart. After dinner my father called me into his study. Mia, you and Ford. My father paused. Dad, what are you trying to say? Ford is a good boy, you two should get along well, my father said seriously. Dad, don't worry, I know, I nodded. And I know about Andrew. Don't worry, I'll take care of it, I won't let him bother you again. My father's eyes were full of determination. Thank you, Dad, I said gratefully. Andrew suddenly stopped appearing in my life. I later learned that my father had used his connections to make Andrew's company's situation difficult. He was too busy taking care of himself to bother me anymore. Ford and I went abroad together to continue my studies in fashion design. In a foreign country we supported each other and made progress together. Our relationship also grew without us noticing. A few years later I entered a global fashion design competition and won first place. Standing on the podium I looked out at the crowd cheering for me and my heart felt full of emotion. Thank you to my family, thank you to my friends, thank you to everyone who has supported me. Most importantly, I thanked myself for not giving up on my dreams. I told the audience that everyone has the right to pursue their dreams and that they should not be afraid of failure or setbacks. I said that as long as they persevere, they will definitely succeed. The audience clapped loudly. I looked at Ford, who was smiling at me in the crowd. His eyes showed pride and love. I knew that my life had just begun.